When The Incredibles hit theaters in 2004, it was obvious that it was destined to become a classic. The clever spin on a superhero family was a massive critical success that earned 2 Academy Awards and raked in well over $500 million at the box office. You can chalk that up to a thrilling storyline, fantastic animation, and great performances. But it also had a lot to do with the fact that The Incredibles is one of the smartest and most layered takes on superheroes to ever hit the screen. If you haven't watched it since you were a kid, here are a few things you'll only notice as an adult. The jokes for the grown-ups. Like a lot of films directed primarily at kids, Pixar movies usually contain a little bit of humor for the parents in the audience. Sometimes it's the kind of obvious gag that might lead to having the talk a little earlier than they expected. And of course, there are the scenes of a very happy Helen Parr pulling her husband back to bed. Others come so fast if you blink, you might miss them. In the early montage about how supers have fallen from grace, for example, one newspaper headline shows that a hero with X-ray vision was using his powers to become a high-tech peeping Tom. No wonder they got rid of all those super creeps. The unsung genius. Edna Mode, The Incredibles' resident fashionista and costume designer, is a huge part of the film. But her costumes aren't the only super tech that's used by the heroes. In just the first few minutes, Mr. Incredible demonstrates his car's tricked-out GPS system, auto-drive function, and its ability to transform into a much speedier vehicle upon request. And that's just one car. The thing is, they never once mention the person who created it all, giving the Incredibles universe its most mysterious unsung hero. How did they get so many wonderful toys that the rest of the world doesn't have access to? And what happened to them after the supers went underground? Syndrome has the tech, but he doesn't seem like the type to share. And no offense, but there's no way that Bob built his own flying car. Somebody out there deserves a little more recognition. Edna's voice. With their snappy dialogue and pitch-perfect delivery, it's not surprising that Edna Mode was The Incredibles' breakout character.
No kicks!
The surprise only comes later when you find out that the actor behind the diminutive fashionista was none other than writer-director Brad Bird. Bird recorded the character's vocals while making temporary voice tracks for the film, and even approached actresses like Lily Tomlin about the part. However, he said that the other employees at Pixar liked his vocals enough that eventually they stuck. Brad isn't the only unlikely voice actor to wind up in the film, though. Kari, the Parr's babysitter, is played by animator Brett Parker. Production designer Lou Romano lent his voice to Dash's teacher, and Bird's son Nick voiced the Parr's shocked neighbor.
That was totally wicked!
Elastigirl is definitely a feminist. If we're all being honest, the real hero of The Incredibles is Elastigirl. She's a good mother, a supportive wife, and the half of her marriage that doesn't get duped into a secret supervillain plot. Her iconic introduction tells us exactly why.
Leave the saving of the world to the men? I don't think so.
Holly Hunter, who voices Elastigirl, has credited the character's outspoken persona to writer-director Brad Bird, calling him a true feminist in a recent interview. And that shows up in the film. She's not afraid to step back into action when she's needed, standing up as a strong feminist role model. Kari deserves a raise. Most kids watching The Incredibles for the first time are probably a bit too young to have taken on their first babysitting job. But once you have, it's easy to see the whole thing as a horror story starring Kari, the Parr's poor put-upon babysitter.
Mrs. Parr, it's me! Jack is fine, but weird things are happening. Jack's still fine, but I'm getting really weirded out!
The fidgety teen is asked to go well above and beyond the call of duty in her time taking care of the young Jack after the Parrs left him behind on their mission to save the world. We've looked, and they've never actually covered spontaneous combustion in any of the Babysitter's Club books. Kari may get a bit of a bad rap for giving Jack up to Syndrome when he finally relieves her after a stressful night, but for $5 an hour, you'd probably hand that kid off to an adult too. At the end of the day, Kari tried her best, and she deserves to be fully compensated for it, and get a great letter of recommendation from Bob and Helen as well. It skewers superhero tropes. While The Incredibles have only ever been featured in the one big story that we see on the screen, they feel familiar too. And not just because they argue like real families on road trips.
Great! We missed it!
You asked me how to get there and I told you. Exit attraction.
That'll take me downtown!
He's coming up. Get in the right lane.
Without exit attraction!
You're gonna miss it!
They also have a lot of similarities to some very famous superheroes, particularly the Fantastic Four. Mr. Incredible obviously echoes the FF's Mr. Fantastic, in name at least. And a quartet featuring a big, strong guy, a stretchy hero, and an invisible girl with force fields might seem pretty familiar to Marvel fans too. Even though Dash is the odd one out in that comparison, his super speed and red costume are consciously reminiscent of The Flash. It's not just the major characters either. The quick snippets of other superheroes shown in the film also seem inspired by the classics, including Frozone's ice powers and Gazer Beam's Cyclops-esque laser eyes. Of course, while it's obvious that the creators of The Incredibles love the superhero genre, they're not above poking fun at its more ludicrous extremes either. All those lines about villainous monologuing are a pretty clear shot at old-school comic book dialogue.
Alicia, you sly dog! You got me monologuing!
Even more important, Edna Mode's entire existence is based around one of the biggest plot holes in the history of comics. The stylist was born after Brad Bird started to wonder how every superhero suddenly became an expert with the needle and thread after getting their powers, and realized that somebody else had to be designing these flamboyant costumes.
You're the best of the best, E.
Yes, I know, darling.
Thanks for watching. Click the looper icon to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Plus, check out all this cool stuff we know you'll love too.